I think we need a new building. All right, I want to welcome everybody to Taylor Elementary and the Taylor Elementary closing ceremony. Before we begin, we have Sarah Takeuchi here, who's a music teacher, and she's going to lead us in the national anthem. So everybody, please stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good stuff, Sarah. Thank you very much, Sarah. Well, I want to welcome everybody. I am Trey Richmond. I am the current principal of Taylor Elementary, the proud principal. I got to meet a lot of people coming in today. I hope you get to enjoy this evening. It is for you. It is for the current and former staff that are here as well. I want to recognize some people that have been instrumental to Taylor throughout the history and currently. So if we have any current board members, which I know we do, if you wouldn't mind standing, please. Current board members, please give them a round of applause. Are there any former school board members with us? No, that's all right. Central office staff, if you wouldn't mind standing and raising your hands so everybody knows who you guys are. All right, the PTA. Where are my PTA members at? Instrumental to what we do here. Yes, thank you, ladies. Next, we have our business partners, and they are vital to what we do at Taylor Elementary. We have Nestle. Is Bob Bartell here? Did not see him. And we have Ann Gray from Rumpke. I know I saw Ann. Ann, thank you very much. Very vital to what we do here at Taylor Elementary. Those two companies provide a lot of positive behavior supports for our students, so we couldn't do those without you. So thank you, Ann. Are there any current Taylor Elementary students here? I know I saw some current ones. Please stand. And I know I met quite a few. How many former students are here? If you would please stand. Yeah. All righty, staff. My current staff, if you would please stand. Current staff. Thank you, ladies. And they are fantastic, by the way. And the former staff, if you would stand, please. Give them a nice round of applause. And now we're going to play a little game. I didn't tell anybody about this. All right, staff, former and current, I need you to stand. Former and current, I'm not kidding. All right, sometimes we go to weddings, and they do some, kind of figure out which couple's been married the longest. So in your head, we're doing a little math. I want you to figure out how long you've been here. Actually, how long you actually worked at Taylor. So how long you worked at Taylor Elementary. If you were less than 5 years, please have a seat. Not many. All right, if you were less than 10 years, please have a seat. All right, less than 15 years. Some are still doing some math.
I think I got the numbers right.
Less than 20 years. It's a lot of history right here. Oh, look at Miss Rogers too. How about less than 25 years? Still up? We have 3. We have Gay Isaac, Sherry Palmer, and Bonnie Rogers. Less than 30 years? B, where's B? I'm sorry, B. She's standing up. I'm sorry. Stand up, B. So, we're at 30 years. B and Bonnie. 35? Less than 35? Yeah. B did 31 years. Bonnie, how long were you? 35 and a half. That is fantastic. I know that's kind of childlike, but I wanted to see. I know there's a lot of history, and I know I've been here 6 years, and I know the staff that worked so hard for the students here, and I want you guys to have an opportunity to see how long some of the people have been here. So thank you for playing along, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we got a little change to the agenda. You sure? Never mind, back on. Mr. Bowling, come on up. This is Todd Bowling, our superintendent.
Good evening. This is an exciting time for the Northwest Local School District. It's a little bit of a sad time with such a great building with great tradition coming to an end and a new building next door. But tonight is about what Taylor was for the last 30 plus years. There's many people sitting out here. I see former teachers of my own who taught me French, physical education, who I taught side by side with, people I graduated with from Northwest High School, the outstanding staff that sits behind me, former and current. And it's really the staff that makes a school a special place. And that includes your custodians, to your teachers, to your cafeteria workers, to your counselors, to your secretaries, everybody who makes Taylor Elementary what it is. So as you get a chance to participate in tonight's ceremonies, listen to the stories, reminisce about the time that you spent here, and just realize what a great education you got and how fortunate you were to develop the friendships that you still have with some of you who are sitting here tonight, and the continued success of Taylor as they move to our new building next door. And we will have it open in July for walkthroughs and everything else, but don't forget about Taylor and what it meant to you, and that's what tonight's all about. So again, thank you for coming tonight, and have a good time.
All right, we're going to do a little history of Taylor Elementary. It was named after Harry E. Taylor, and Harry E. Taylor was born in 1887. He began teaching at 16 years old at Blue Rock School. He was the first principal of Colerain Township Centralized School, and he was the second superintendent of Colerain Township School District. This building opened on September 7th, 1960. How many people were here on September 7th, 1960? I welcome you back. Stand up, please. Please stand. The building was built for $628,000. Wow, yeah. The first principal was Oliver T. Wilson. You guys remember him? It was a K-6 building at the time. The school colors were gray and yellow, which is interesting because the colors on the middle of the floor are green and yellow, and somehow we are now blue and yellow. But it was gray and yellow at the time. If you were buying lunch, it cost $0.25. If you bought a milk only, it was 2 cents, so hopefully you had your pennies on you. And ice cream was $0.05. And I found this interesting. And I got a lot of this information from Mr. Duke, so I gotta thank him for this. Recess is a little bit crazy here sometimes. But back in 1960, the principal, Mr. Wilson, he would supervise recess every day. But he did it from his office, just looking through the windows. It also said that if they were acting up at all, he would just get on the microphone and just start yelling. So, but I'm sure there wasn't any problems. And then the last, I guess, major addition to the property was the top parking lot that was built in 1966 for the staff. With that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Duke. And I know from people coming in here, there's a lot of people looking forward to hearing from you, sir. They were wondering if you were going to be here. So here is Mr. Bill Duke. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back at Northbrook University. We always thought that it was maybe not quite prestigious, so you were the principals of Taylor, so you could say you're the chancellor of Northbrook U, and that was exciting. In 1958, this piece of property was owned by a guy named Ralph Quick. He was a school bus driver for Northwest Schools, but he'd had a farm here, and with the growth of the schools happening in this district, he was willing to sell his property, 34 acres here, for $50,000. And you can imagine what this piece of property would be worth today. In 1976, I was transferred from Pleasant Run Elementary to Taylor to be a 6th grade teacher and assistant to the principal for this building. Had almost 1,200 students that year. We had, I believe that was the year that we had 12 first grade classes because the district needed to redistrict but didn't want to do that yet. Pretty incredible. I was here from 1976 to 1979. In 1980, I spent a year as principal at Struble, and the principal that had previously been here left to take a superintendency in Washington State. I was transferred back because they thought perhaps I knew more about this community than anybody else. Well, upon my arrival, I found a school that I felt really had rather low self-esteem and very, very little parental involvement. But I also found a really strong staff full of committed teachers, including Mrs. Gay Isaacs, who stood earlier. She was the assistant to the principal, and I had a fine leadership team, and we began to address student academic successes. We looked at parent involvement, and we particularly picked up on student pride and what it meant to be a student here at Taylor Elementary. An honor roll was instituted that rewarded students with participation in special assemblies in this very room. Special green and gold days were instituted. That's why it's green and gold there. Special green and gold days were instituted, and children discovered wearing school colors were rewarded with an Andes mint. And so I went around throughout the entire building and saw more than my share of BVDs, as kids wanted to be sure they got an Andes mint, so they would show me their green and gold underwear. With terrific leadership from a 6th grade teacher named Gerald Roberts, we started a great science club, and many was the day that the trees out here in the woods were tapped and sap was accumulated, boiled down, usually about 85 gallons of sap boiled down to about 1.5 gallons, and then we'd have some good times with the children and their parents. Our kindergarten staff did some retraining and came up to date with current methods led by Dr. Sue Jones and by staff at UC, and newer kindergarten procedures were implemented, and that resulted in more educational experiences for the youngsters here in Northbrook. Head Start was incorporated to assist the area preschoolers with their development, using the gifts and talents of a guy named Mr. Larry Vogt, a fourth grade teacher. A weekly televised news program occurred. It was called Taylor Scrapbook, and it used students in as on-air personnel, and the other students operated cameras, and that was viewed throughout the school every week. I did not know of any school in the city that was doing anything like that at that time. I discovered very few Taylor students were involved in extracurriculars at Northwest High School. So we made contact with our high school, and their wrestling team in this very room began an annual week-long wrestling clinic, and as a result, a lot of our former students moved on to Northwest as wrestlers and earned many, many awards. And they also explored some other sports as well and became involved in band. The PTA was DOA when I arrived, dead on arrival. In that first year, parental involvement was targeted, and Taylor's PTA membership grew and grew and grew, resulting in Taylor being named the school in the entire state of Ohio that experienced the greatest growth in PTA membership that year. Pretty incredible. And so one Sunday afternoon, along with Donna Jordan, who represented the PTA, we drove to Columbus to a special awards dinner on a Sunday night to receive that special award. Skating parties were added. And that saw students and parents and staff alike laughing and skating side by side. An emphasis on reading was a focus with the MS Readathon and also balloon launches tied to the reading, accumulation of reading points. We had begun to take kids to Camp Kern, Camp Joy, and that continued, but I had to seek private funding because we didn't want any child not to get to go just simply because they didn't have the family didn't have the money. So we looked for financial support, got some from various people in central office and other places. Taylor was chosen to host 2 classes of the Hamilton County Educational Service Center's multi-handicapped students. And that really brought students from an assortment of school districts across the city. These students participated fully in all of our school activities as much as possible. And their presence really taught the students from Northbrook about respecting others. After-school community education programs gave students great opportunities to extend learning in computers and gymnastics and arts and crafts and sign language. Teachers in PE and the fine arts proudly displayed their skills and talents of Taylor students over at Northgate Mall at something that was called Northwest Expo. There were some challenges in the 80s for sure, but through hard work, a forward-looking staff, support from a solid core of parents, Taylor Pride was celebrated. On October 22nd, 1985, in this room, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of this building. And at that time, with the assistance of others, we created this booklet and had a great celebration. For the event, I wrote a history of Taylor, which concludes with some words that I believe are just as applicable in 2018, 33 years after I wrote them. And I believe that these words apply as Taylor moves into its next era of service to this Northbrook community. It reads as follows. From the earliest beginnings, Taylor's been a site where students, parents, and teachers have joined forces to attempt to accomplish that great task of educating the children of its society. If its walls could talk, it is certain that a story would be told that would include laughter, tears, successes, and times when success just was elusive. It would tell of long staff hours, of times when teachers went extra miles to facilitate learning. It would tell how little ones grew and developed under the one roof, and how they have become productive community citizens. All of us have shared in these moments. We're all a part of an immense puzzle which has been assembled over the last 25 years. Now that makes it 53 years. And that puzzle is not finished. Taylor is left vulnerable to the future. The objective before it, however, remains unchanged: to nurture young students in an environment which will allow their individual abilities to mature and develop so that they lead productive adult lives. I thank Northwest Local School District for affording me the opportunity to be one of the school administrators here. When this property was a farm owned by Ralph Quick, it was fertile ground where crops were nurtured and grew into healthy specimen. In 1918, we find that these 34 acres, they're still fertile, but it is now where young minds are being nourished and are growing into healthy young adults. May this always be so. Thank you, Mr. Ishman, for inviting me to share this special evening. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
We have another former principal, Becky Carlisle. And Gay Isaac, both of them. 2 for 1.
I'm gonna let Gay go first because she was before me. And she's older than I am.
She talked me into getting up here, and now she wants to hand it over to me. I was before her, and Becky was my assistant principal, and we did a lot to try to improve Taylor. I know Bill said that their PTA was not very good, and they worked very hard on improving it. Well, in the meantime, after Bill left, and by the time I came, the same thing had happened. And so we worked very hard in getting the PTA to grow constantly. And one of the things we did was Sarah Takauchi volunteered every PTA meeting to do one grade level and have them come and sing. And then the parents came because they wanted to see the kids, and so that way our PTA grew and grew. We also got people to donate all kinds of gifts and had a raffle to get people to come. So that was one of the things that we did. We opened the library for parents to come on library night with their children twice a week, and Kathy Denowit did that. And I have to thank the staff members because our staff members were tremendous. We also opened the computer lab to the parents and the children so that they would be able to come and learn things about the computers, because at that time many parents did not have computers at home and it was necessary for them to learn. I'm going to turn it over to Becky now.
Seeing you out there reminds me when we had hundreds of kids coming in here, sitting on the floor, and you know, they weren't quiet. They're all talking. And all I had to do was raise my finger and look at my watch. And it took about 10 seconds, but within 10 seconds it was quiet. Anybody out there remember that? Some of you? Okay, great. I came here to Taylor as a substitute teacher in 2nd grade. It wasn't my favorite. They're a little young. But luckily, I was able to interview and get with Gay Isaacs and get a position in 4th grade. And I think there's one of my students there, right? 4th grade student. Stand up, give her applause. Catherine Hinkle is who I replaced. I don't know, some of you might remember Catherine. She was here for a long time. And then I taught for 2 years, and then they adjusted the assistant principalship. They said you can teach half day and be assistant principal a half day, which was challenging, but it worked out. And then walked into the principal's job, and I was nervous about it. But I tell you, it's the best experience I've ever had. And it's because of the people up here. Sorry. The people up here, some are missing, and the families and the students, it was glorious. warm, friendly, kind. Was everybody perfect? No. Some had to come to the principal's office, but we worked out pretty good, right? But it was wonderful. And we worked together as a staff, and we changed some things up. And the first year, the scores came in. And Dr. Jones, where are you? You were here. She left, okay. She came in and she said, bring the staff down. Our scores were not good. So we adjusted some things, and within 3 years, we were excellent. Did you see the sign up in the top? We were excellent the next year, and we were the excellent the next year, because we were all focused and did the best we could for students. That's what we did.
Great staff.
And they asked me at central office, they say, Becky, what are you doing over there? It wasn't Becky. It was all of us together. And all the families, we could remain focused on education, because that's what's important. And you people being here, and I would tell this at PTA meetings, you people demonstrate to your kids what's important by where you spend your time. Did I get that from you? Maybe. So when you come to school, like you are today, you are demonstrating how important education is, and community. Okay? And that's what we did. And I'm so pleased to see all of you. And I can't tell you how wonderful it is to see the teachers and staff. It's just been very special tonight. And I hope I can talk to some of you out there. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing. I just want to reiterate on what Becky said. You are what make everything so special, and the teachers. And working together, we can gain anything we want to. So I can't thank you enough. The best years of my life were here in this building. I love this building. I love the children I worked with, and I can't thank you enough for being part of my life.
Yeah, I followed Becky, and that's hard to do, and I need to thank her because I know she helped me get ready, because this was my first principal position back in 2012. So Becky, I thank you for helping me out along the way.
You did it, bud.
Still doing it, still trying. All righty, we have a former Northwest administrator who was a student here at Taylor, Mr. Mark Farmer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I started kindergarten here at Taylor in 1961 or 2. It's been so many years ago, I'm not really sure anymore, because I've hear the stories about it opening in 60, and that's what I have on my paper here. So I wasn't the first class, or I think I'm a lot younger than that, but I think it was in the early 60s I started. I started in kindergarten and finished through the 6th grade. Not only me, but my brother, my 2 brothers, and my sister also attended those grades here at Taylor. Afterward, all of us attended the middle schools here in the district and also graduated from the 2 high schools. And my older brother and my younger sister and I became educators, and in fact all of us worked over 30 years here in the school district and retired not too long ago. My younger brother spent 38 years at General Electric and had a very successful career. I say all that because the foundation of where we started right here. And I especially want to thank the Taylor Elementary staff for doing a wonderful job with us, and especially me, because I was probably the squeaky wheel of all of us in our family. And through Taylor, I learned many valuable lessons, and I'm very, very grateful to this place. And it's kind of really cool to be back and see the same gym that we had our assemblies in, etc. Some of the things that I learned, and you don't think about it much as you grow up and you get busy with life, is that the teachers here and that staff, that very staff that was here with me, helped me grow as an individual. Like I think like a lot of young kids, I lacked confidence, and they taught me how to believe in myself. They taught me how to be kind and honest and fair. And they taught me to care and get along with others. They taught me the difference between right and wrong. And I know all those are cliches, but thinking back on it, they really did. And they taught me how to work hard when things didn't come easy. And they didn't always come that easy for me as a student. They convinced me that I fit in here. And that helped when I went to Colerain Middle School, and it helped when I got to Colerain High School, that I belonged to the group. They made school fun. I enjoyed coming to school. And because of all of these lessons, or the result of all of those lessons that became pretty powerful for me, then I learned a lot about reading and writing and arithmetic. And that's a key thing that I've learned to be grateful about. I learned from people that cared about me as a person, and I learned because they cared about me. I learned to do math and English and that kind of thing as a result of all those things. Well, all these lessons remain important to me today, and again, I'm very grateful to them. And I really believe that those lessons have helped me in my career and helped me as a dad and as a friend and as a parent. But I think the real reason I'm up here is to tell a few silly stories about when I was here. And so I want to first start with science fairs. I'm not sure if we still have science fairs, but I tell you that my dad single-handedly started the movement to ban parents from helping their kids on science fair projects. Like always, the way I did business, we would have a science fair and we'd work on ideas and all those kinds of things, but I really wouldn't get my parents involved until the weekend prior to them having to be turned in on Monday. And I'd come to my dad, and I'd say, and my mom, and I'd say, they're supposed to be due on Monday. And so then it put him in a frenzy, and what he did was he took control, and I had to suffer because I had to be with him the whole time, and I had to feel guilty, but he did a lot of my stuff. So in third grade, I remember the science fair project that, I couldn't even spell solar system, but I came in with a box that might be 4x4, spray painted inside, had all the planets that were proportional, painted, had a flashlight that acted as the sun, and not only that, it had a motor that caused them to rotate around each other. I'm pretty sure that my third grade teacher realized, having watched me up until then, that I didn't do that by myself. Another science project. So you think I'd learn after that year? That was third grade, and I didn't win. And I'm glad I didn't win because they knew my dad did it. The next year, as a fourth grader, I came to my dad probably then on Saturday morning and said, "Dad, same old stuff." So I remember a project that had a life-sized outline of a person who was wrapped in aluminum foil, and then had red and blue yarn that described the circulatory system. So again, I brought that in, and I'm sure my teacher wasn't fooled by that one either. So, like I say, I think my dad started a trend where parents, I think, don't really are not supposed to get involved in all that kind of stuff. Or at least that's what I told my sons when they were growing up, because I didn't want to do it. This story is a little bit more serious than that one. I remember a teacher that I had here, and I think it was either in my 5th grade year or my 6th grade year. His name was Jim Dunn. And you might know his name because he became an administrator in Colerain Elementary, I'm sure, but I'm not sure exactly where else. Welsh as well. And I remember this story because he's never been very far from my heart. As a 5th grader or a 6th grader, when it got to springtime, he began to skip his lunch, and we'd go out every day where the new building is being built there to ball fields, and he would play softball with us. And I mean, it didn't happen one time, it happened every day. That was nice. And through that, he let me know that he cared about me and he cared about us. And that was one of the lessons that I learned. But one particular time, I don't know how we did it, it was my turn to pick for one of the teams. We'd divide teams up for the week or whatever that was going to happen. And so it got down to a couple students sitting here in the room still waiting to be picked. And I remember this young man's face, and I remember his name because of this lesson that Mr. Dunn taught me. It was my turn, and I said something like, I don't want it, but I don't want him to be on my team. I guess he wasn't much of an athlete or whatever. I can't really remember. But I remember the lesson that Mr. Dunn taught me. So after we got that settled, he took me out and he sat down with me, and he really explained to me about my words and the words we say and how we say and what and how that can hurt somebody's feelings. Now, as a result of that, I have kept that in my heart, and hopefully I've tried to continue to remember that lesson. And it's helped me in my career. Sometimes it helps me with my wife at home. But it was a powerful thing. And I think the message that I took away from that conversation was that he cared about me as an individual. He talked to me, he treated me kindly, and only because he did that message mean so much to me. And I've tried in my life to do those same kinds of things, not as well as he did, but he was a heck of a man. And people say, well, why did you get an education? Well, really, because I wasn't really sure exactly what I was doing, but he had a strong influence on me at that time. As a first grader here, my room was down at the end, close to the end of close to the woods there. And so I started school a little bit early. I think my mom had enough of me, and she really needed to get me out of the house. So I started maybe a pretty young 5-year-old, I guess. And so I really didn't want to be here. I mean, I didn't mind the kindergarten because we were in the little building across down here. I don't know what it is anymore, yeah. But first grade was a different ballgame for me because now I had to be here all day long, and I missed my mom mostly. So Mrs. Fry was a teacher. I don't know if anybody remember Mrs. Fry. And so as first grade teachers do, they start working with kids and they start getting into little lessons. But every time Mrs. Fry would work with somebody on that side of the room, my little butt got up, walked out the door, and then walked out the back into the woods. And at the time, if you remember, some of the folks that are my age will remember the steps that ran all the way down through the woods up to Lori Linda. And I mean, I didn't do that once. I did that once a week probably. And so they finally quit chasing me, and they would just call my mom, and my mom would walk from where we lived on Niagara, and she'd meet me about halfway, and I'd see her, and she'd make me come back, and I have to then come back. So I tell you the lesson, one of the lessons I learned, Mrs. Fry sat down with my mom and my dad, and I'm sure the conversation went something like this. We should probably retain him because, you know, he's a pretty immature little guy. But they didn't, and they decided to pass me on or move me on or whatever. And I've always thought about that, and I thought, you know, that mercy that they gave a little 6-year-old who probably didn't deserve it, it made me start thinking, maybe I better stay in school and maybe I better work a little bit hard for people that give you mercy. And so that was a little bit of a lesson. The last thing, or the last little story I have is this courtyard out front, and I might be wrong on this one, used to be mostly concrete. I don't know that there was a grass infield right in the middle of the two stairways that came up. But I remember early on in my career here, my mom and dad were very active in the PTA, and my mom was maybe a PTA president, I'm not sure, but she would rope my dad into coming up and working. And so I remember my dad hand painting the map of the United States in that area. And I mean, it was big. It was the width of the two sidewalks there. And not only did all the states get a color and so on, he had the state name and also the capital. But I remember the pride that I had, and I also remember the lesson there for me was, isn't it cool? I didn't think of this then, but isn't it cool that when parents are involved with your kids, how that makes them feel? Because again, I mean, without them being involved, I don't know what I would have done. I was kind of wiggly, as I said, so it made me feel good, and it made me appreciate my parents now. So, you know, I did thank I did thank the staff members that were here with me, but I also wanted to thank the staff members here because I just want to encourage, it's been a couple years since I've been in the school business, and I just really want to encourage you. I learned these lessons, and if a little guy like I can learn these lessons, sometimes in the hard part of teaching, and I know it's hard sometimes, there are these little ones that see what you do, how you act, what you care about, and if it helped me, I know it's helping those folks, and I appreciate that. And lastly, I wanted to kind of wish the new staff going into Taylor, some of you, I'm sure, not all of you, and I know that's a hard change. Those same lessons are going to be taught, and those same kids are going to come, and they need people like you. And thank you for what you guys do. So that's it.
Is Lexi Keys here? I didn't see her. All right. We have two people we want to recognize. Mrs. Greer, if you will come on up here. And I'm not sure if they know this or not yet, but if they look in the program, they do. Mrs. Greer, Miranda Greer, is our PTA president, so let's give her a nice round of applause. She helps us out a ton. Now, you got to come closer. I won't give the mic to you. You don't have to talk. We want to recognize two people for our Friends of the Children Award. The first one is Holly Rodenbeck. Mrs. Rodenbeck, come on up. Mrs. Rodenbeck's been a huge part of the PTA for 5 years. She helps getting volunteers. She's created so many wonderful memories here for our students. She was president for 2 years and treasurer for the past 2 years. She did me a huge favor. I don't remember about, I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago. She took over, we only had 3 people on board. And basically said, we're going to be fine. We're going to get people, and she did. She's got a kind heart and has given her heart and soul to the kids of this community. The crazy thing about it is, she doesn't have a student in the building, or a child in the building. You don't. Yeah. I know, that's crazy. So yes, thank you. And I know as PTA president and someone who's active in the PTA, your family is the ones who suffer at times. And Mr. Rodenbeck, I thank you for allowing us to work and have your wife help us. And your 2 boys, Logan and Luke, they're helping right now. So with that, we've got you a little something here. All right, so Ms. Rodenbeck, thank you very much. Congratulations. The next winner is Tammy Sander. So Tammy, if you will come on up, give her a nice round of applause, please. Tammy's been in the PTA, or been on the PTA board for the past 4 years, and again has been a huge asset to the school. She volunteers at all the events. Middle of the day, passing out pizza or something, Mrs. Sander is there. The students love her, staff loves her, and we appreciate all you do. She and her husband give the school so much of their time to ensure that students will have fun and memorable events to attend. She's been the PTA secretary this year, again, while her children have moved on to other schools. So she, again, does not have a student or a child in the building, and I thank you for that. I really do. I mean that. Thank you. And I'm going to get this from how many children? 3?
3.
3.
Yep.
Ben?
Yep.
Brandon Ben is how old?
10.
10. Brandon?
14.
Nathan?
7.
17, I'm sorry. So, Ms. Sander, we appreciate all of your help and support over the past 4 years. Thank you. Mrs. Green, you want to talk? Okay. Got to get her one last time. All right, since 1960, children and families have been coming to the site to learn and create memories with each other. From all the people that I've spoken with over the last 6 years, it is very apparent that the staff work extremely hard to meet the needs of the students. It is also very apparent of the pride that sits in front of me right now. We're all part of the history of this great building. As great as the building has been, the important pieces are the people that have walked these halls, both students and staff. This community is great. Traditions and expectations won't change. Starting next year, the students will have the opportunity to learn in the new Taylor Elementary building. And the staff and students will have new opportunities to create new memories. Thank you. The goal for the new building is unchanged. Educate young students to meet their full potential. There are a few people I'd like to actually thank for helping with this event. First, the closing committee, the staff members that were on there. Thank you very much for helping get this event. This has been a huge, I say stress for me. I'm not usually stressful, but this one is, I want it to be special. Second, Charlie Greer. Mr. Greer, if you'll stand. He's the grandpa of Adeline Greer and Logan Greer, and Logan's a fourth grader at PRE. Adeline's a second grader here. He comes up 3 or 4 times a week, sells snacks, works with the kids. He actually organized all the pictures that are set up in the cafeteria for afterwards. So, Mr. Greer, I thank you. PTA, for assisting with the event and helping set this up. Couldn't have done it without you. And thank you for all your help the past 6 years. Staff, I know I've been stressed, so thank you very much for helping us set this up. I know you've taken some burdens on, so thank you. Yes, thank you. The custodians. I know it's tough because obviously kids were here till 3 o'clock. They left. Quick turnaround, get the building ready for you guys. I want to thank all of them and all of Dave, Angela, and Brian from here, and we got a couple extra custodians from the district, so I want to thank them for all their help. And 2 people that are with me through thick and thin, Mr. Phelps, my assistant principal. And Mrs. Beach, our secretary. Thank you guys very much. It is almost over. I'm sorry. I apologize. I want to take this chance here for the staff. I'm going to have you guys go back to your rooms. Former staff, I'd like to invite you to go back to the rooms you taught in, because I know if people are looking for you, that's where they know they'll find you. So if you guys want to start making your way that way, I encourage everyone to enjoy the night. We have pictures in the cafeteria back from 1960, the first staff, the first classes, all the way up to 2017, I guess. So I hope you enjoy the night. I want to thank you for attending. I do want to remind you that if you did ride one of the buses, they're going to stop running at 8:30, and it went a little longer than I thought. But please enjoy yourself and have a good night. Thank you for coming.
Okay, I'm not going to help with the
Are you trying? Okay. Is that my mom?
I think so.
And Kit, is that?
There's her sister.
Yeah, that is Kim.
That was Sandy Pan. Randy Duncan. Oh my God. Can't believe I remember these people. Scotty.
Yeah, I guess we would be in first grade.
There's nothing, nothing is back here.